Think back to some of the best combat systems that you've ever played. Maybe you think of the run-and-gun aggression of Doom. Maybe you think of the methodical yet punishing melee combat of Dark Souls. Maybe you even think about the fluid combo routes and customization of Nier Automata. Or you could just play Monster Hunter, a series that offers basically all of these and so much more. A series with the most fleshed out, creative, flexible, and meaningful combat in all of gaming. I'm Ouroboros. Let's talk. It's easy to get overwhelmed when you look at what weapons you can pick in Monster Hunter. After all, there's 14 distinct weapon types, and none of them are really that similar. Some of them are straightforward. You've got the sword and shield, bow, and lance, but what the hell is a charge blade, switch axe, insect glaive, and gun lance? The great thing about this system is that you get so much flexibility in your loadouts. If you're ever struggling with a monster, there's so much room to experiment around with a different weapon. Even after hundreds of hours with the series, I still find myself avoiding certain weapon monster combos. I mean, good luck trying to do any meaningful damage to Deviljho with a tiny sword and shield, and good luck managing Brachydios' explosions while you're weighed down by a heavy lance. And even when you've locked yourself into a weapon, there's so much room for player expression within that. Just look at Ryze's switch skill system. You're literally able to swap and customize the base attacks to your heart's content. Throw on top the Silkbind attacks and you've got more depth and freedom in one weapon than some entire games. I'll gladly take Monster Hunter's Dual Blades, a weapon I don't even really like that much, over Tears of the Kingdom swordplay, but that's really just the tip of the iceberg. I'd like to highlight 3 of the 14 weapons to just give you a tiny taste of the creativity and depth that Capcom has blessed us with. Those 3 are the lance, the bow, and the charge blade. The lance is kind of the tank class of Monster Hunter. You have the strongest shield, and the entire game plan revolves around being glued to the monster at all times. It's a simple weapon. You'll mostly be using 2 thrusts, a high and a low, and throwing in counters whenever the monster attacks. Simple enough, right? It may sound boring, but once you get the hang of not only the weapon but also the monster, it becomes a dance. In fact, I'd say every hunt is a dance. You attack, the monster attacks. You trade blows back and forth until, well, one of you dies. The lance is precise. There's a wide sweep attack, but it's slow, laggy, and generally not worth your time. But that enables you to direct all of your attention into a certain part. Different parts take different damage, and since the lance has such a massive reach, nothing ever feels out of reach. Once you become skilled enough, you're poking, countering, sidestepping, and breaking parts left and right. It's really the weapon with the most uptime. Your damage never fluctuates greatly. Even during knockdowns, you don't have any flashy combos or big attacks like the Greatsword, but that means you're consistent. More importantly, you're safe. The lance is my go-to whenever I don't really feel comfortable with a monster yet. The massive shield and very generous counter windows give me breathing room to learn a monster's moveset. The hunt definitely takes longer, but the risk of carding is way lower with the lance. It's a safe weapon with a simple moveset that will allow beginners to learn the game, but also give veterans a way to stay glued to the monster. Up next is the bow. I'm personally not a fan of the ranged weapons. I feel they're just a little too safe. In fact, I don't even have a bow set and had to look up how to apply coatings because I couldn't remember which button to press for the life of me. But out of the 3 ranged weapons, the bow is definitely my favorite. Like the lance, it has a simple moveset, but the complexity of the bow comes from each weapon's intrinsic traits. Unlike other weapons, the bow's moveset changes based on which specific one you're using. The Teostra bow will have a different moveset than the Kushala bow, and the Kushala bow will have a different moveset than the Chameleos bow. There are charge levels to the bow, so the longer you hold a shot, the greater the level will be. Besides your normal shot, you also have charge shots, which, unlike your normal shots, have different properties. Rapid for precision, spread for wide range, and pierce for long monsters. So you're constantly switching between normal and charge shots, not only depending on the monster, but also the situation. Add on top of that the coding mechanic, where you can add status conditions to your shots, and it adds a lot of utility to the weapon and can make a massive difference, especially in multiplayer hunts. While the moveset of the bow is fairly simple, you're mostly just shooting and dodging, it's the intrinsic mechanics of each individual bow that gives it its depth. Finally, we arrive to the Charge Blade, widely regarded as Monster Hunter's most mechanically complicated weapon. At first, it seems relatively straightforward. It's a sword and a shield that has a few basic combos. They flow together seamlessly, so you can always move from one combo to the next. But then you look at the top left corner and get into the charging mechanic of this weapon. Attacks that hit the monster will charge your files. You can use these files to then charge your sword and shield. Charging the sword will deal extra damage, and your attacks won't bounce. Charging the shield will grant you a stronger guard and power up your axe attacks. Yeah, axe attacks. By combining the two, you now wield a massively, comically oversized axe, which now has its own unique combos and mechanics. You're also able to discharge your saved files with certain axe attacks, or discharge all of them in a blaze of glory with the super amped elemental discharge. Yes, that's its actual name. Then you add on top of that the guard point system. During some of your attacks, your shield is held out in front of you. For this brief period, any attacks that hit you will instead be blocked, and your animation will cancel. If your shield is charged, it will also deal out small damage to the monster. There's so much going on with this weapon. It's notoriously complex, and some of the tutorials for the weapon can be rather extensive. This is just scratching the surface of each of these three weapons. With the exception of the light and heavy bowgun, every single weapon plays radically different. The all-or-nothing power of the greatsword, the tag-team acrobatics of the insect glaive, the explosive artillery of the gunlance. All 14 weapons are so distinct and creative. Then you throw on top the game-specific mechanics like Iceborne's Clutch Claw or Ryze's switch skills and Silkbind attacks. There's so much joy in coming to learn and master each weapon. It won't be easy though. Monster Hunter is infamous for having a bit of a steep learning curve because not only are you wrestling with the general mechanics of the game, but you're also fighting 20 years of weapon evolution. No one person will play each weapon the same too. Because of the insane depth of each weapon, everyone finds a playstyle that will work best for them. That's one of the many reasons why I love this franchise, which is why I've decided to do a bit of a mini-series on Monster Hunter this month, which I've appropriately dubbed Monster Hunter May. I'll be doing a different video every week about some of the best parts of this series, so stay tuned for more. Regardless, the combat of Monster Hunter is absolutely incredible, and its 14 weapons are truly one of a kind. Thanks for watching.